Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
What do you call an upside down triangle? I have no idea. I did a search on Google, couldn't figure it out. I shouldn't say I couldn't figure it out. It didn't really get a suitable answer. It was just doing a search on triangle and didn't really answer my question, which probably not surprising. Why do I need to know what an upside down triangle is? Today's guest, Phil Jilks, is a Focal Point certified performance coach and a trainer, and he's an advocate for small businesses and advocate for helping businesses grow. And he and I met, 6 months ago, and we met through a program that Bob Berg does, and I've been on his program, the Business Renovator. And we were just talking, and I was trying to figure out a way to kind of get him on this show talking about relationships, and he was sharing with me something he talks about with his clients through Focal Point, called the upside down triangle. And he was like, "Hey, that's not very sexy, but I don't know what else to call it. But it's what he calls his relationship model for selling." So I'm like, that's perfect. I think many people, not all people, but many people are adrift with respect to how to sell. And I run into it all the time. I had a call yesterday with somebody who, just kind of laments cold calling, but doesn't really know what else to do. So Phil, welcome to the program.
Hey, it's great to be here with you and talk about triangles. I didn't like math and all that kind of stuff, but here we are when I was in school, but now we are talking about triangles.
Yeah. Phil's coming to us from Canada.
I am. And it's a gray sky, a skiff of snow. And what was it, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Buffalo had 6 feet of snow. I don't think I've ever seen 6 feet of snow where I live.
Yeah.
In the mountains where I go and ski, but not where I live.
Now you're in the Calgary area, is that?
Yeah, that's right. Here's a plug for what we are famous for. Well, besides oil and gas, but it's the Calgary Stampede, the largest outdoor rodeo event in the world.
Didn't you have the largest indoor mall too?
No, that's
Edmonton.
That's our rivals. Yeah, we hate those guys.
Okay. I gotcha. All right. Okay. Well, we'll move on. We could go on forever. We'll have another call just to chit chat. All right, let's talk about the upside down triangle and the relationship model for selling that you use and you coach people on.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. Like we've said, it's an upside down, so the pointy part's at the bottom. And the reason for that is that the fatter part's at the top. It's divided into 4 segments. And it's 40, 30, 20, 10. That's the percentage of the triangle. So 40% of the sales process should be, and Bob Berg's a big fan of this.
Yeah.
Show up with value. Don't be there to pitch. I hate the word pitch, unless we're playing baseball or European football, footy. It's not played on a pitch. And a pitcher uses a pitch to deceive the batter so it can trick them. Well, professional sellers are not tricksters. They're really solution-oriented, problem-solving individuals that help you, like a doctor does. They do a proper diagnostic process before that they can prescribe anything, so they avoid malpractice suits because they've not tried to get somebody to make a decision that's not to their favor. So 40, 30, 20, 10. 40% is building the rapport, trust, and respect. The next part is doing a deep understanding, a needs analysis, I suppose is the best way to describe it. So both of them are actually question-oriented areas. So now we're at 70% of the sales process based on the upside down relationship triangle. The next part is if you've asked the right questions and you've listened intently and you've really listened with, you were present when you were listening to the people. You weren't
Right.
listening and thinking about what you're going to say to what they said. You actually listened. If you've taken that time and effort, invested that in the conversation with the people you're with, then you have earned the right to go to the next part, which is the 20%, persuasively persuading them with the solution that you may have for them. And then presenting it to them in a way that resonates and aligns with what you heard them say in the first 70%. And if you've done that, even if you've missed a point, a mark, they'll say, no, that's not quite what we meant here was that. So then you can go back up and do more questioning and fact finding to come down to the presentation to say, okay, so we don't do that very well. So that's something, if it's an important piece of the puzzle for you, we're not the best fit for you. However, we manage it this way. And if that works for you, we could continue. So that's basically what you do. It's an ebb and flow of what you've learned, what you're uncovering and identifying what's the issue they have that they don't want, and what's the solution you might be able to provide them that they didn't even know they could get from you. And when you've done the 20%, when it comes to the last part of the triangle, the upside down, the pointy part, it's 10%. And that's what most people say close, commitment, whatever you want to call it. And when I've done this properly and know that I've earned the right to be a service provider considered, they'll go, so are you available at this time on Tuesdays or Wednesdays? Or where do we go from here? And I would say that's a great question. It really depends on where you want to get to and how fast you want to get there. Then they tell us and we build a program to support them in what I do. But I've helped people sell tangible things do the same thing.
Right. So you don't refer to that as a close? What do you?
Well, you can call it a close, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I mean, I get it. It's just a close. It's like pitching. It's got got that bad connotation to it. I mean, I like this. The showing up with value. I'm a big fan of saying that sales is, well, sales is trying to convince somebody, outright sales is trying to convince somebody to buy something that they may not need. And we see this all the time on LinkedIn or email. Hey, you need this program, you need these leads, you need this app, you need this, and they don't really know anything about you. And what you're talking about here, you're certainly showing up with value. You're building that relationship with them. And a lot of times it doesn't necessarily go beyond the relationship. And that's okay. Or I shouldn't say it doesn't go beyond the relationship, because once you start assessing their needs, you might determine, you know what, they're too small, or they're too big, or they've got an issue that we really don't solve. But because you've built that relationship, then you kind of have the right to, well, maybe help them in another way, adding value, referring them off to somebody else. This is what you need, and I know this person can solve this for you.
Yeah. So one of the people that I've studied over the years is Brian Tracy, and that's where the upside down triangle came from. At least to me it did. And he always says, be a doctor of sales. And not all doctors do everything very well. There's a general practitioner, and then there's all of the experts outside of that. So maybe you have a team of supporting cast experts that you can refer them to, or and maybe there's a monetary gain there, or maybe there's not. Maybe it's, hey, and I don't do that, but I have an associate that I've met and I like and trust, and I can make an introduction and refer you over to them, and then I'll let them know what we talked about, and you can decide if that's a fit for you. So if we do it with the right spirit of intent, or with the right intention, we're not attached to the outcome. I find that that's worked out really well. I've done the other. I've been so attached to the outcome, even though I teach this stuff. I'm human. And I had somebody who told me they were going to go ahead, that when they had to talk to our competitors, and when they stood on the cliff that ready to jump and go with the competitors, we talked them off, right? So I believed everything they told me was what they were going to do. And anyway, they went with the other guys, and I went from high intention to low attachment to high attachment, and my intention shifted. I was not proud of myself at that moment. But I mean, I still stay true to your intent while you're doing it. And if they don't come to work with me, it's okay. Something bigger and better and brighter is on the way.
Yeah.
Frees me up. So it's not getting attached to the outcome. Yes, I love to help people get to where they want to get to. But if it doesn't work out with me, that's okay.
Well, I think the win is the relationship,
Yeah.
right? You have that relationship, and they've taken the time to, you go through you go through the needs analysis, and you, at that point, you can sit with them and say, this is, and I have an organization, a membership organization, and I tell people this is not for everybody, and I'll let people know I really don't have a fit for you. I'll take your money. I don't feel good about it because I don't know that I can make a productive outcome out of it. But if you'll give me the time to allow me to tell you what I am about, who I'm looking for, we have that 40%, we have that relationship, and they're going to be hopefully willing to, to pass you on or pass me on to whomever.
Well, I've experienced that with you because I have a live stream podcast called The Business Renovator, and you've referred numerous people to the show, and they've chosen to be guests, and we've had some great conversations. So,
well, you're entirely welcome. A lot of times I look at those things as, well, this is what I would love to do, Phil. I would love to deliver you a client. That would make my day, right? Would make your day too. Yeah. But those are, I don't want to say they're few and far between, but it doesn't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. But referring you people who can be on your show certainly helps you, hopefully helps you. But I think it helps the other people as well, because they have the opportunity to jump on a show.
One of the things I get out of that show, and one of the reasons why I did it, was it was in the back of my head to do, and I needed something to be the catalyst to make me do it. And I started doing it, but I didn't like what was available platform wise. And the pandemic happened, and it turned our world topsy-turvy. Yeah. And as a result of that, it gave me the impetus or the motivation or the rationale for actually starting the show. So it started in April of 2020, and it's been going on ever since. And what I like about the show, for me personally, is the psychic rewards I get. So how I get to learn from people gave me an opportunity to be able to keep talking to people, because I don't like making cold calls. Warm calls are good, but cold calls, I even hired a coach, and she's really good at that. And it didn't work for me. But the things I learned from the people that come on the show is awesome. And if we can have an impact on the audience today, tomorrow, or 2 years from now, then it's been worth doing it. I've not monetized the show at all, although I'm working on making that happen, so it at least breaks even, so I'm not going backwards. Right now, it's an investment in something that makes me feel good in terms of listening and learning. Like I learned about menopause today from a point of view I'd never thought about before. And as a result of that, the lovely lady Connie she did a LinkedIn survey to men to find out if we wanted to understand about menopause. And the women said, "Oh, the men won't want to know that. They're not interested in us." It's not true. We are so. We do care. And her survey proved that. And we learned that today. If I hadn't interviewed her, I wouldn't have found out that 89% of the people, men, that responded to her survey wanted to learn and understand women better. So I learned that today on a call on the show. It was fantastic.
Well, I'm convinced that if you want to get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of free consulting, start a podcast.
Yeah,
because you can start interviewing people. I pick up things I picked up stuff today. I continually pick it up.
Yeah.
And I share it out. And I'm not trying to game the system, but it's kind of a silent quid pro quo, right? I mean, I'm getting a little something, you're getting a little promotion, and continue to build this relationship, and it's good. It's good. What kind of guests do you want on your show? Let's shift gears here a little bit and talk about that. It's the Business Renovator for people listening.
Yeah, and there's 3 pillars that are foundational. They're the main ones, and that's sales, marketing, and mental fitness, or if you're not comfortable with that mindset. Mental fitness is actually developing the brain's power, so that we quiet down the critics, the inner critics that I think we all have. Yeah, we all have. And they show up for some people in larger than life, and others are really quiet. The people that I want on the show are they've done something, and it doesn't have to be like written 6 books or even a book. But if they wrote a book, let's talk about it.
Right.
But really, it's about their journey, who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, who they've helped, what's a sample of where that showed up, those kind of things. In around who are they as individuals and people, and what are they trying to do? So the gal this morning, her hashtag is hashtag menopause navigator. So it's a real thing that real women really go through, and there's things that they go through that's who she wants to serve and help. And she'll help the men too, because she even helps them in their relationships with their spouses or their partners. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. My show is much the same as what we're doing. It's kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody who wants to do a keynote address or pitch from my airwaves. That's not what I do. I had one fellow do that once early on. I'm glad it happened early, because now it never happens.
Right.
Because I position it, let everybody know it's a conversation. And some podcasters want to have 5 or 6 questions that you prepare them with. I have one. And that's at the end. What's the one thing that if you were going to pass it on that you want to share, like in 30 seconds or less? That's about the only premeditated question I have. The rest is an organic flow. And some people are, I'd really like to know in advance what I'm going to say. And I said, well, if we go in for a coffee, would we always have an agenda with questions we want answered, or we're going to sit back, relax, and have a coffee?
Right.
I learned something from one of my mentees there's an organization in the US, I think it's called A Million Cups. That's all right. And I forget the name of the fellow who founded it, but he's a well-off fellow, retired. And the idea of million cups of coffee is some of the best information came over a cup of coffee between entrepreneurs. So they've actually created this group where they support each other as entrepreneurs. So that's kind of what I like to do in a smaller sort of way with the business renovator. You have to bring your own coffee though, because we're in different parts of the world.
Yeah, it's virtual. But last thing, focal point coaching. Who you looking for? Types of people you want to work with?
My favorite place is people who have a business where they've been operating for a while. Typically, my peers, some like to start up, so we can help them there too. Just not me. It's not my forte. What I'm looking for though is, small, medium-sized businesses, anywhere from a couple of million a year, with 10 to 30. One of my clients has 300 employees, so it could be there, but they're larger, at the large end of the spectrum, that want to increase their effectiveness without having to work any harder. So Michael Gerber, in his book, The E-Myth Revisited, talks about the idea of working on your business instead of in your business. And I'm interested in helping people that are at that point in their entrepreneurial life where they're wanting to have improvements in time and revenue, and maybe even the way they lead and guide their people. But as far as what industry, it really doesn't matter, as long as it's not anything to do with sex or drugs.
All right. We have Phil Jilks on today. You can learn more about him at his website, coachphil, PHIL.ca. He's in Canada, so it's .ca, coachphil.ca. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Awesome. Phil, thank you.
It's been a privilege to hang out with you. I love hanging out with you.
We'll do it again.
Look forward to it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.